Hello and welcome back. Well, I had a video all planned out to do this Friday, something that happened in late February that I wanted to talk about dating in the United States, in the Western world, modern dating as it is. But then this was dropped in my lap on the 4th of March. He's back. That's right. CUCK Murphy has returned after 2 months on hiatus. Here is the email to the liminal order. It says, "I'm back. What I learned from the incident and my past." Please remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. Make sure that you're still subscribed. And find me on Twitter. I tweet some fun stuff that I find on Twitter. Now, this was brought to my attention by the Quartering. If you don't know who the Quartering is, well, I don't know. Stop living in a cave. He has well over 1 million subscribers. Jeremy, can't remember his last name off the top of my head. He's up in Wisconsin. He seems like he's a fairly reasonable individual who likes to talk about similar stuff to what I talk about. Only he's been doing it for much longer and doing a much better job of it. So what I don't get about this liminal order thing, let's go ahead and get into this article here, this email, is it says community, content, Counter-Strike, account, login. I know what community is. I understand that. I understand what content is. I understand account and login, but what is Counter-Strike? Now, I'm not here to slam anybody who's a part of the liminal order. If you have found this organization and it has helped you, from what I understand, this is kind of like just a men's organization where they work on being better men, where they work on understanding the world better and coming to terms with the way things are and hopefully progressing physically, emotionally, psychologically, culturally through our world that we live in today. Hey, if that's what you're doing, great. I've done plenty of self-help and personal improvement projects over the years. So sometimes you need that. But what is Counter-Strike? What is that? What are we Counter-Striking against? Anyway, let's go ahead and take a look at this article here. I don't think we're going to be able to read it all because it is really, really worthy. And it says, "I'm back" at the top here. "I'm a seeker. I have always been looking for the truth, and I've always done my best to move toward the truth in an authentic a way as I know how." All right, then. That's a way to sidestep the fact that you were obviously not seeking the truth when you snapped at Sydney Watson. You're seeking the truth the best way you know how. You should just then owned up to the truth when Sydney called you out on it. "My life has been a study in moving from darkness to light. I wrote about this in my book, Democrat to Deplorable. That transition wasn't purely political, but also mental, emotional, rational, and spiritual. As I went from Democrat to deplorable, I also went from the manosphere to the Americosphere." That's right, he's not a manosphere person. "From hedonism to service to others, from libertarian values to traditional values, from subjective secularism to objective truth." Okay. What is subjective secularism? Is that actually a thing? Subjective secularism? That's not something I'm familiar with. I guess that would be like looking at the world the way that you want to instead of trying to find the truth in it. And did he actually do any of this stuff? I don't know. I mean, I'm suspect of the things that he says and does now. He was removed from his position or left his position on the school board under suspicious circumstances. So, I mean, how much of this is really true? He's not part of the manosphere. He doesn't think that men should look at going their own way. If you want to go your own way, do it. That's your thing. And I never adopted that as a concrete way of living my life, but I lived that way. It's like, I'm not going to put up with any garbage from any of these women that come into my life. So it's like, next. Just scrolling through ladies in real life, not on my phone. A lot of them wouldn't even get past the first conversation. I spent a lot of years banging my head against the wall going, what the hell am I doing wrong? And then I found the manosphere and go, oh, I'm not doing anything wrong. It's actually the women I'm talking to. So there's perfectly valid reasons to stay in the manosphere. And I don't know why he doesn't see that. He thinks that our duty as men is to just get with a woman, period. And I think, hey, long-term relationships are great if you find a good person to be with. Don't just go out there and get into a long-term relationship because it's the thing to do. No, you got to find the right person to be with. Back to the article. People told me the pursuit of happiness meant doing whatever you wanted. Objective truths were hidden from me growing up in a democratic family, growing up liberal, growing up in a progressive environment. Freedom meant you could thumb your nose at anyone trying to warn you to stop doing something that might harm you. It was pursuing your happiness, doing your own thing, no matter what that thing was. Okay. I can't say anything about that. That's his own experience. It took me decades of being a proactive, engaged adult learner to figure out that that wasn't the case. I learned that our country was built upon people who didn't believe that you should do your own thing no matter what it was. I learned that the founding fathers encouraged us to act in harmony with the virtues and excellence of Aristotle and the morals of religion, specifically Christianity. Oh, Christianity, that bastion of morality. Graven images, there you go. There's one of their moral tenets in Christianity. Yep. Don't be worse than them graven images. If you do, you're an evil bastard. What the hell does that have to do with anything? Being against rape is not one of the 10 Commandments. I'm sorry, what now? Oh, today in our modern society, racism, the biggest sin of them all, there's none of the 10 Commandments say anything about not being a racist, about racism in general. So yeah, these religions, these ancient religions that you want to follow there, Jack, they're more about living life at this time and then keeping people adherent to this faith. And that was a long time ago. Moving on. I've always been on a trajectory of trying to figure out the truth. It has taken me a long time, and I have made bad decisions along the way. On a trajectory of trying to figure out the truth. Well, I'm going to pee in a lot of people's oatmeal when I say this, but religion isn't true. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, there are religions, of course, and people do follow religions, but there's no evidence that there is a God or gods or any divine supernatural creatures. So how is that true? You're allowed to believe whatever you want to believe. We have that right in the United States. So go ahead and believe that if you want to, but just know that there's just no evidence for these beings who claim we should be worshiping them. 3 years ago, I did some things I am no longer proud of, things which disgust me today. The catch was they were acceptable in the context of my belief system at the time. I used to believe that consent between and among all parties involved was enough. This is humanism, a belief system that says humans are born innately good, so whatever we desire must be perfectly acceptable. All desires are equally valid and moral. That means if you enter into a consensual relationship or a consensual engagement with somebody, then that's enough, and it contains all the justification there is for your behavior. Yeah, I used to have some humanist books. I picked up one and started reading it, and I didn't get that far into it. I'm like, yeah, this is not something that I need. And I threw them all out or donated them or something. I don't know. Now I recognize that consent is still required, but it's not enough. Consent is not enough to mediate society because people can consent to terrible things that does not make those things acceptable. I thought that as long as I did what I wanted without causing direct damage to others, that it was okay. It was my life after all, but I learned consent cannot make bad into good all by itself. Okay, good for you. Yeah, you figured out what grade school children are taught. After that realization, I began to explore what else needs to come along with that consent. If consent is not sufficient to determine good and bad, if consent is not the totality, then what is? What about the common good? What does the action you're consenting to mean for everybody else involved in other ways? Like your parents and your children. The common good is what I'm guessing he was supposed to write there. The common good is not to be enforced through law, but perhaps through social mediation, through cultural mediation, or the law of fashion and opinion. We should do what is good so that our world is good for others. Yes, we should do what is good so that our world is good for everybody involved in it. Unfortunately, most people don't feel that way. Therefore, we have laws. So, sorry, you can't enforce the good by going, hey, we should all do this thing. There's always going to be somebody out there who's going to take advantage of the situation because they can do more by breaking the rules. In the last few years, I have been offered the amazing opportunity of one-on-one education with some of the greatest scholars and spiritualists and political philosophers in the world. Then he has a link to his YouTube channel right here in the article. Oh man, Jack. Oh, this is also a grift. You're using your comeback, your premature comeback, by the way, as a grift. Oh, Jack. Man. My connections over the last 3 years led me through a cycle of awakening. With that came a rejection of humanistic relative morality and an embrace of objective good. I have had an amazingly accelerated, dedicated, professionally tutored educational process that has brought me from that one position 3 years ago of consent is all to a new position today where I reject some of the things I used to embrace. That That's such a weak statement. My new position today where I reject some of the things I used to embrace. Okay. Maybe elaborate on that a little bit. What I have found is this new way of thinking. There is virtue specifically. Okay. That's a weird sentence. Those virtues contained within our definition of masculinity: to build, to create, to provide, to protect, to instruct. Men acting upon the world with the intent to make it better for all people. No man is a man who gathers power to himself solely to revel in his own power. No, you have to do it in a way that's virtuous and reflects the Aristotelian excellences, and that's why the second part of our version of masculinity is also to act with honor, courage, loyalty, and strength in every context, including sexually. Yeah, you figured that out too late, I think, after you put some stuff on the internet of you doing, well, we'll just say butt stuff. Originally, masculinity, according to Aristotle, was about being a good man to be part of a good polis that you create together, which is something I've talked about before. Then came Machiavelli, who said it was actually just about glory. Well, that's insufficient. And then Hobbes and Locke, who said masculinity is about survival and property. Well, that's insufficient as well. And then you get to modern life, where identity is the only truth and masculinity is an angry rejection of postmodernity. No, masculinity is not just about tearing down the world because you can, just because you want to exert your will. And this is one thing that I'm disappointed with Jack about, is because he's anti-woke. You're probably anti-woke yourself, otherwise you wouldn't be here listening to this. And so, yeah, I can get behind him and be like, hey, look, here's another soldier in the war. But then he wants to go and do this crazy woke relationship stuff. Moving on. Masculinity is actually a little bit of all those things combined into one. Being a good man to build and maintain the good polis for your people. Achieving glory through moral means, survival and protection of property in the face of tyranny. Anger at modern life and its threats to our family. And tearing down what is evil for the sake of rebuilding the good polis. Masculinity is all of these. That's my current definition and working usage of the idea of masculinity. Okay. This article is rather wordy, by the way. We're not anywhere near being done yet. All this learning led me to found the liminal order, not because I was a perfect man ready to teach others to be perfect. I was still deeply flawed. I carried shame and scars from my days when I believed in liberalism. You've seen some of my worst moments on the internet in the last couple of months. When they were still secrets, they drove me to pursue virtue in order to distance myself from the past version of me I hated so much. I wanted to teach other men to avoid the traps of hedonism I'd fallen into. Is it just me, or does this sound like a self-aggrandizing apology? Look how great I am. I'm sorry that I'm so great. Look at me. I'm just sorry that, hey, I did these things in the past. It's because I'm so great that I no longer do those things. It's like saying, hey, I'm sorry I have such a large wiener, guys. You're all cursed with those smaller wieners. I have a big one. That's all that matters to me. It's like, I got a big one, Sorry, I just got the little ones. Look, if he was sincerely sorry, this article would be much shorter. He'd just come out and say, look, I did some bad things. I was wrong, and I don't do those things anymore, and I realize that they're wrong, and this is the path I'm on right now, and this is what I want to see moving forward. This email would be a quarter to the length that it is, and everybody would just move on. But he's doing this a little bit too early, 2 months. 2 months I don't think is enough time to forget about what he did and all the things that happened back in December, January. Some have said that me running the liminal order is the height of hypocrisy. They mistakenly believe that I continue to do these actions up to the very day my sins came to light. They wonder how I could teach men to be men when I have done the things I have done, and they question rightly why I did not reveal myself to others and own my mistakes as I teach men to do. My biggest mistake was not coming clean about my past. I should have, so that it did not control me or threaten the work I do to help others, because when my past was revealed, people believed I still did those things, and that made me angry. My anger at their being revealed was really anger at myself for having ever believed as I did. I was ashamed, but in the moment, my anger turned outward at the people who revealed my sins when I felt I wasn't ready. I was wounded and wanted the pain to stop. I don't think people thought that you were still doing this stuff. Everybody was very much aware that this was stuff that was done in your past and that you were now engaged to this woman, and you guys are no longer messing around with Matt and all the other people that you brought into the relationship, however many there were. People have called me many things: hypocrite, grifter, FBI plant, Mossad asset, spy ringleader. They've invented fanciful stories about my escapade. Some have used this as an excuse to tear down the work I've done helping men. Okay, and then he goes on to say, all this is my responsibility. It's a very wordy article. Look, the Liminal Order is not and never has been a Jack Murphy fan club. No, but you ask men to pay you lots and lots of money to be a part of this. And you didn't come clean about your past until you were called out. People actually had to call you out, actually had to force this. The Liminal Order has 3 core values: masculinity, brotherhood, and, I'm going to say it like Anna Kasparian, sovereignty. It's sovereignty. Just had to throw that out there. The Young Turks are also annoying and dishonest. Yeah, this just goes on and on about how great he is for having these things. There's some weird stuff in here about Joe Rogan. Then I remembered I'm not the only podcaster who has faced the past being dredged up. With every regretful past thing they've done and had to come to terms with them in public. I considered Joe Rogan, for example. Why do people listen to Joe Rogan? Is it because of his inappropriate jokes, even racist jokes? Does Joe Rogan tell racist jokes? I've never heard any. The other things he has said? No. People don't listen to him for that. Do they listen to him in spite of that? Yes. And Joe Rogan has talked about how he used to have liberal values, which really means hedonistic values. And he had to transition from leftist or liberal values to traditional values, and that results in behavior change. I've never heard Joe Rogan say this. Maybe some of you listening to this right now listen to Joe Rogan a lot more than I do and could tell me if you've heard Joe Rogan say, hey, I transitioned from liberal values to conservative values. Because I've only ever heard Joe Rogan say, I'm freaking super liberal, except I think we should have guns. That's what he says. I want drugs should be legalized, universal health care, equal rights for everybody, no matter what their gender or race or sexual identity. All those things are liberal values. And he's like, the only thing I don't agree with is gun control. We should all have guns. And people watch Joe Rogan because maybe they want to hear interesting ideas from interesting people that he has on his show. And Joe has a lot of interesting things to say himself. Even though you might think he's an idiot, he still does have some pretty interesting things to say. Because he's out there, he's doing stuff. He's a dynamic individual out there living life. And so he can bring his experiences to the table. This is such a long article. And it doesn't really say much other than, hey, look, I did some stuff in the past and I'm sorry about it, so therefore I'm awesome. Where was this? There was this like part here towards the end, I think, that was pretty funny. We can start reading it here. Frankly, if anyone rejects the ability to be redeemed, they are rejecting Christian morality, but the American spirit as well. You mean and the American spirit as well? Really? So America is all about redemption? That is what America is all about, period. And about nothing else. Okay. That is not to say that I am synonymous with the Christian faith or that I don't have to show my repentance and desire to change. I do, and that is on me. But those who would attack me from here on out, those who say there is no hope for a man to change, it is not me they are attacking. They are attacking Christian ideas and the American love for a comeback. And I will no longer respond to them. I will spend my effort changing and learning and being redeemed from the man I was when I didn't know better. Okay, then. I'm not attacking Christianity because I don't think you deserve to be redeemed. I'm attacking you. And whether or not you deserve to be redeemed depends on how sincerely you are actually apologizing. It doesn't seem very sincere here. It seems like you're self-aggrandizing with this thing here. This whole letter here. You know, it's kind of interesting. Jack Murphy has not been on the Tim Pool show since all this went down. He went on and apologized. Sort of. Not really. He's like told like a sidestep apology. And Tim Pool has been swatted, 5 times now? At least 4. I'm pretty sure it's been 5, though. He got swatted like twice independently and then like 3 times in one night. Huh. Maybe there's something going on there. I don't know. I'm just saying. That's kind of weird coincidence. But we all know that if Jack Murphy were there, it would be like Super Mega Giga Chad would just stand up and like all the police would fall down instantaneously because of his awesome Giga Chadness. Anyway, this guy, he's coming back too soon. He should have taken at least another month off. I would say minimum take off 6 months, but a year is probably a better idea. And when you come back, just be short and sweet. Just be like, look, I screwed up in my past. I don't do those things anymore. I realize that they're wrong, and I want to help men be better people because I have these experiences. So maybe there's other men out there who've gone through the same things that I've gone through, and I can help them out of that hedonistic lifestyle. And he does address some of that in here, but he just is way long-winded about it. And coming from somebody who's long-winded, believe me, I know what long-windedness looks like. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I do appreciate everybody supporting my work. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and I will see you in the next video.